The clatter of bronze shackles filled the chamber as Samson strained against the ropes. He had broken bonds before, ropes snapping like threads when his strength surged through him. But this time, something was wrong. The power that had always risen within him, the unexplainable force that made him unstoppable, was gone. Shouts echoed as Philistine soldiers burst into the room. Their blades caught the firelight, their feet pounding against the floor as they closed in. Samson twisted, pulling against the cords with all his will, but nothing happened. His arms were weak, his body ordinary, his strength vanished. In that moment, he realized the truth. He had told her everything, and Delilah had betrayed him. Samson's story begins centuries earlier in the era of the Judges, when Israel was not yet a kingdom, but a loose confederation of tribes. The Philistines, coastal people with iron weapons and fortified cities, dominated the region. They oppressed the Israelites, exacting tribute and controlling trade. Into this conflict came a child unlike any other. According to the book of Judges, an angel appeared to Samson's parents before his birth, announcing he was to be a Nazirite from the womb, a man dedicated to God's service, never to cut his hair, never to drink wine, never to touch the dead. In return, God would give him extraordinary strength to deliver Israel from the Philistines. From his youth, Samson's feats set him apart. Stories tell of him tearing apart a lion with his bare hands, later turning its carcass into a riddle at a Philistine feast. He struck down 30 men of Ashkelon, carried off the gates of Gaza on his shoulders, and in one of his most famous battles, killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey. He was feared and hated by Israel's enemies, and celebrated, though often uneasily, by his own people. Samson was powerful, but impulsive, driven by desire as much as by divine mission. His weakness was not in muscle, but in heart. That weakness led him to Delilah. Judges 16 describes her as a woman of the valley of Sorek, a region between Philistine and Israelite lands. The Philistine rulers saw an opportunity. They approached her with an offer: find the secret of Samson's strength, and they would each give her 1,100 pieces of silver, a fortune. Delilah agreed. From that moment, their relationship became a game of deception, her words of affection masking the weight of betrayal. She began with simple requests. "Tell me the secret of your great strength," she asked, "and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson toyed with her, answering with lies. He claimed fresh bowstrings would hold him. When she tied him and Philistines rushed in, he snapped them easily. Next, he told her new ropes could restrain him. Again she bound him, again he broke free. A third time he claimed that weaving his hair into a loom would trap him. She wove the braids, fastened them with a pin, but he rose and carried off the loom itself. Each time, Samson escaped. Each time, Delilah pressed harder. Finally, she accused him directly. "How can you say you love me when you won't confide in me?" Judges says she pressed him day after day until his soul was vexed unto death. Weary, worn down, Samson yielded. He revealed the truth he had guarded all his life. "A razor has never touched my head," he confessed, "because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would be like any other man." Delilah knew he had finally told her everything. She sent word to the Philistine lords, who returned with silver in hand. That evening, she lulled Samson to sleep on her lap, calling for a servant to shave the 7 locks of his hair. The razor passed over his scalp, the covenant of his Nazirite vow broken. The strength that had defined him slipped away. When she cried out, "The Philistines are upon you," he awoke, expecting to break free as before. But the power was gone. The soldiers seized him, gouged out his eyes, and dragged him in chains to Gaza. There he was bound in bronze shackles and set to grinding grain in prison, a task reserved for beasts of burden. The mighty judge of Israel was blinded, humiliated, enslaved. For the Philistines, it was triumph. They gathered in their temple to Dagon, their god, to celebrate Samson's capture. Crowds filled the great hall, lords and commoners alike, rejoicing that their tormentor was finally broken. They called for him to be brought out, to entertain them. Blind, chained, Samson was led into the temple, mocked and jeered as the people praised Dagon for delivering him. But the story did not end there. Judges records a final act. As Samson stood between the temple's main pillars, he asked the servant guiding him to place his hands against them. His hair, once shaven, had begun to grow again. He prayed to God, "O Lord, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me just once more, that I may avenge myself upon the Philistines for my 2 eyes." With all his might, he pushed against the pillars. The stone columns shifted, then gave way. The roof collapsed, crushing the crowd of worshippers and leaders. In his death, Samson killed more Philistines than he had in his life. He was buried in his father's tomb, remembered as a judge who, even through weakness and failure, delivered his people. The betrayal of Samson by Delilah has echoed for millennia, told in scripture, sermons, songs, and art. It is a story of trust exploited, of desire blinding judgment, of strength undone not by battle, but by intimacy turned against him. Delilah's motives were plain: silver and power. Samson's flaw was equally plain. He gave his heart where he should not have, surrendering the secret that defined him. Together, their choices led to one of the most dramatic downfalls in biblical history. Historians and theologians have debated Delilah's role for centuries. Was she a Philistine, working directly for her people, or an Israelite swayed by wealth? The text leaves her background unclear. What is clear is the outcome. Her betrayal stripped Samson of the gift that set him apart. Yet even in that betrayal, the story insists God's purpose moved forward. Samson's final act struck at the heart of Philistine power, a victory bought at the cost of his life. For readers across time, the tale endures because it is both extraordinary and painfully human. Samson was a man of unmatched strength, yet undone by weakness familiar to all. Trust misplaced, temptation yielding to persistence. Delilah was not a warrior, but she defeated him with questions, affection, and persistence sharper than any sword. The clash between them was not on a battlefield, but in the quiet moments of intimacy, where words cut deeper than blades. The capture of Samson did not end Israel's struggle with the Philistines, but it left a mark in the nation's memory. The book of Judges closes his story as a tragic cycle: strength wasted, vows broken, redemption only in death. The betrayal remains a cautionary tale, as alive today as it was when first told around firesides thousands of years ago. Samson's last cry still echoes, blinded, chained, yet calling on God for one final surge of strength. Delilah's silver still gleams in the story's shadow, a reminder of how easily trust can be bought and sold. And the fall of the temple in Gaza still stands as one of Scripture's most vivid images, the moment when a betrayed man pulled down the walls around him, taking his enemies with him into ruin. Thank you for listening to Divine Crime. Subscribe for more true stories from the most dangerous book ever written.